When the house arrives, there's basically about 4 items that need to be connected. We have our water lines, which there's 3 connection points here. You can see this customer has chosen to use a manifold design, which allows us individual shutoffs for each device. We have our humidity solenoid, we have our wet tank solenoid, and we have our shower solenoid. So should there be a problem with one of the solenoids, because the customer has allowed individual shutoffs, we can turn off one and continue to run and process as needed. The second thing that needs to be hooked up is our chimney stack. Our preference is to have this stack go straight up, as close to straight up as possible. Another Pro Smoker advantage is our 4 to 6 drip adapter. Should there be any tar or creosote that wants to come back down the chimney because of a cold day or some condensation, it's going to run down into this 6-inch drip adapter and out this pipe, as opposed to running into the house. It's up to the customer however they choose to do it. If they'd like to set a little pail up here to catch those drippings, most of them will put a piece of 3/4 inch clear hose over the side and down to their drain. This house is set up for single phase, so you'll notice our line 2 is open. Our electrician has brought in the wires, and that was the only connection that needed to be done here in the field. We are already wired to the fuses. We are wired to the mercury contactors for the elements. Our elements are all connected. We have a built-in safety high limit switch. Should the house ever get to 250 degrees, it will cut power to the house and shut it down. And over here we have our starter contactor and fuses for the fan motor. Because we're using a pellet generator, we do not need the contactor and fuse block for a sawdust producer, but it does come as a standard component in every house should a customer ever decide to change the type of generator. Another advantage to the Pro Smoker setup is our 3 damper system. These dampers allow us to control the smoke, which is our front damper, as well as controlling the amount of air going into or out of the house. Our new 3rd damper, which has been recently added, allows us to achieve some of the HACCP requirements for a completely sealed oven during a jerky process. With that 3rd damper, we can completely close off the damper so that no air exits the house during that stage to meet the HACCP requirements.
Features that I really like about when I sell the Pro Smokers is the latching system. We use a very heavy-duty dual latching system, so we don't get a lot of warping in the doors as happens with some of the lesser quality machines on the market. Also, between the door and the latching system, which as I said is a very heavy machined stainless steel parts, the whole thing is bushed on Delron fabric bushings, so it's nice and smooth and clean and lasts for years. The outside also has a Delron bushing between the heavy machined hub and the door latch. The gasket is a full 1 by 2 inches. It uses a special glue. In the 10 years I've been selling for Pro Smoker, I have never replaced a gasket. This is the best built, best gasket on any door of any smokehouse on the market. 100% hands down guaranteed not to leak, not to come loose, not to peel.
Another advantage of the Pro Smoker system is our door gasket saver. As you lower the ramp, in case you don't have the door fully open, you'll notice the ramp will hit the angled stainless steel, preventing you from tearing into your door gasket, thus providing you a longer life with that gasket and less maintenance. Another feature of the Pro Smoker Smokehouse is the Mini-Mat microprocessor. We've been using this processor for several years now. Very reliable, very good service, very easy to operate. To begin with, we'll press the program button. At that point, we press number, and we'll use our arrow up and down to get to our desired value. 15, and we press enter. It moves down to the stop position, so we know that there's nothing in that program. So So we don't have to worry about something else being in there that we need to overwrite. So we can begin by programming. Our first stage is going to be start. We're going to turn off the horn during the start cycle. And we want to have that start mode for 1 minute, which is what's currently inside the program. By having the 1 minute, it gives us the ability to set a delay down the road when we go to select program number 15 to run a batch of jerky, should we decide that we want to delay the start of that process for a certain period of time. Once that step is in, we press arrow up, the light moves back to the stop button, and we can continue on. Our next stage is drying, so I press dry. In the dry cycle, we're going to set a relative humidity of 25%. Even though we're drying, we don't want the jerky to get too dry before we get into the smoke cycle. We want to maintain that tackiness of the product so that we get a good pickup of the smoke. So that's why we set a floor at 25%. Located directly above our microprocessor is our chart recorder. This device will track the internal temperature of our products and chart it for us using this red pen. So you will really have 3 different checks for your internal temperature. Internal temperature will be displayed on the microprocessor, it's displayed digitally on the chart recorder, and it will also be charted on the chart. If you take a look inside our control panel, you'll notice you don't see a ton of starters and contactors and fuses and all sorts of devices that have a chance of going wrong. In our house, we have a terminal strip which is tying this control panel to the unit on top, which has the mercury contactors in it for the heating elements. Standard on all of our houses is a power filter to condition the power going to the microprocessor. And then you see the back of the microprocessor. Everything's very simple and straightforward. Should a lightning strike happen and it takes out your microprocessor, it's a matter of disconnecting 4 terminal strips, which just pull right off, slide out the damaged microprocessor, slide in the new one, plug it in, and we're set to go. One of the things we encourage our customers to do is to keep track of their programs that we've put into their house, as well as track any changes that they make to the programs. That way, in the event of a lightning strike or some other occurrence that causes a fault on the microprocessor, the factory can preload all their programs right into the unit before it ever ships out. So when the customer receives that product, the new microprocessor, they can slide it in, plug it in, and they're ready to run. An additional advantage of every Pro Smoker house that's built is our NSF and UL certifications. Every smokehouse in Pro Smoker's product line is NSF approved for both sanitation as well as electrical. We are the only manufacturer to have their full line approved. So for starters, you take the shower pipe out and you just turn that. The next thing we're going to do is take off this pan, which is the 2 wing nuts. The next step is to take down the ceiling. They provide a bracket here, which makes life a lot easier for the ceiling. And what I typically do is I'll loosen the front so that it has a place to go to. Then we'll go to the back. We take the last one out. The ceiling is going to come down and it'll rest on that little tab. Now as we take the front down, okay, so we'll pull this last one out and that'll just swing down, and now it'll hang right on the back wall for us for cleaning. You'll notice in our houses we put 45 corners. The top corners is typically where your smoke and everything builds up in most of our competitors' houses. With these 45-degree corners, we don't get near the buildup, and that's why we're able to not have to take the ceiling down every time to clean it. This is our humidity nozzle, which you can access with the ceiling in place. We're going to take out the humidity nozzle, and then we're going to flush all the lines. There's 4 things you want to check every day before you start a cycle. So I like to write them on the back of the book, so you got it as a quick reference during these first couple months. Those 4 things are your wet tank, so that's where you flip the switch on, make sure the water's filling and you've got about the diameter of a pencil running over the wet tank. The next item is your chart. Check to see if you need to change it or get it lined up. Make your notes like Ed just showed you. The third thing is your pellets. Make sure that we've got enough pellets in the hopper. And the fourth thing is your wet sock inside the wet tank to make sure that it's nice and clean.
Remember, where there's a product being smoked, there's a pro smoker.